I'm preparing a staple of the Belgian kitchen. Roast chicken with a homemade applesauce and crispy golden brown new potatoes. It's a rustic, honest meal that relies on simple ingredients. I begin by preparing my aromatics. I clean 2 small onions and cut it into 8. Next, I crush 4 cloves of garlic and quarter a fresh lemon. Finally, I chop a large carrot into rough, chunky pieces. I will also be using herbs, thyme, rosemary and 4 bay leaves. These will provide a deep, savory base for our roasting juices. I start the preparation of the chicken by removing the wishbone. This makes the carving of the breast meat much easier later on. Using a sharp knife, I carefully scrape along the bone to expose it on one side. Then I cut along the other side to free it completely. I gently pull the wishbone upwards to detach it from the carcass. I season the inside of the chicken generously with salt and black pepper. To infuse the meat with flavor from the inside out, I stuff the cavity with half of all of my aromatics: the lemon, the fresh thyme, the bay leaves, the rosemary, garlic, and the onion. The carrots I will use later. I toast the chicken. I tuck the wings close to the body, run the kitchen twine crosswise underneath and then pull it tight to bind the legs together. This ensures the chicken cooks evenly and holds its shape beautifully while roasting. I season the outside of the chicken with more salt and pepper. In a heavy cast iron pan, I melt a knob of butter and sear the chicken on both sides until it's golden. I then turn the bird onto its back and add the aromatics, along with a few black peppercorns. The pan goes into a preheated oven at 150°C 300°F. For about 90 minutes, depending on the size of your chicken. To ensure the meat stays incredibly succulent and the skin develops a deep color, I place some extra butter on top of the chicken and baste the chicken with the roasting juices every 10 to 15 minutes. While the chicken is roasting, I move on to the applesauce. I'm using apples that have been sitting in my kitchen for a while. I peel and quarter them, remove the cores and cut them into rough chunks. A splash of lemon juice will keep them from browning. In a pot, I melt some butter and gently stew the apples. To prevent them from coloring, I add a small splash of water and let them stew for about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I taste for sweetness. You don't want it to be cloying. These apples were naturally sweet, so I'm only adding a single teaspoon of sugar. I let it simmer for another 5 minutes until the texture is just right. For the potatoes, I'm using Krieltjes, or new potatoes. I wash them thoroughly to remove any grit and boil them in salted water for about 15 minutes. Meanwhile, I finally chop some curly parsley. Once the potatoes are cooked and drained, I let them cool. Once cooled, I slice them in half and fry them in butter until they are beautifully crisp and golden. A final toss with fresh parsley adds that classic touch. The chicken is nearly done, so I baste it one last time. Once it's out of the oven, I let all the juices from the cavity run back into the pan and move the bird onto my carving board. I let the chicken rest under aluminium foil for 10 minutes. I pour the roasting liquid through a fine mesh sieve to create a pure, flavorful jus. I carve the chicken by starting with the legs. I cut through the skin between the breast and the drumstick, and using my other hand I pull the leg away from the body until the hip joint pops out of its socket, and then use the tip of my knife to cut through the joint and remove the entire leg as I repeat it on the other side. Now for the breast. Because I removed the wishbone earlier, this part is now much easier. I make a long, deep cut down the center, right along the breastbone. Keeping my knife as close to the ribcage as possible, I use long, smooth strokes to sweep the meat away from the bone. Finally, I flip the carcass over to find the oysters. These are two small, round nuggets of dark meat located on the lower back near the thigh joints. They are considered the most tender and flavorful part of the chicken. In French, they call it solilaise, which literally translates as the full dive de terre. To serve, I place a piece of chicken on the plate and alongside those golden potatoes. With a helping of the warm applesauce. I finish it off by drizzling that rich roasted jus over the meat. It's a simple, nostalgic dish that never fails to satisfy. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more Belgian classics like this one, don't forget to subscribe and I will see you in the next video. Enjoy!